Billionaire pretends to be homeless to find a mother for his son, and the cleaning lady did something amazing. Richard Bennett watched every woman passing through the central plaza of Phoenix, with his 7-year-old son Ethan by his side. Dressed in worn-out clothes and sitting on the cold ground of the pedestrian walkway, he had made a decision that would change their lives forever. The cleaning lady who worked in the nearby office building stopped in front of them for the 3rd time that week. Sarah Williams, 32 years old, held a plastic bag with bread and a thermos of coffee. "Good morning," she said, crouching down to their level. "I brought a little snack for you." Ethan looked at his father, who discreetly nodded. "Thank you very much, ma'am," replied Richard, purposely changing his tone of voice to sound more humble. "Sarah? You can call me Sarah," she said, handing the bread to Ethan. "And you? What are your names?" "I'm Rob, and this is my son Ethan," lied Richard. The woman smiled at the boy, who was eating the bread with feigned eagerness. "Ethan, do you like hot chocolate? Tomorrow I'll bring a little for you." The boy's eyes genuinely sparkled for the first time in days. "Yes, I do, Auntie Sarah." Richard observed his son's genuine reaction. It had been 3 weeks since they started this charade, and Ethan hadn't shown such spontaneity with any of the women who had approached them. "Rob, do you sleep here in the plaza?" asked Sarah, real concern in her voice. "We manage, Ma'am Sarah. There's a shelter nearby that we can sometimes stay at." She took $20 from the pocket of her blue uniform. "Take this. Buy something warm for Ethan tonight." Richard hesitated. Throughout his adult life, he had been the one giving money to others. The situation deeply bothered him, but it was part of the plan. "You are very kind. God will bless you." Sarah stood up, adjusted her backpack, and checked the time on her old cell phone. "I need to rush to work. See you tomorrow, okay?" After she walked away, Ethan tugged on his father's sleeve. "Dad, why did you lie about our names? And why do I have to pretend I'm poor?" Richard sighed. How to explain to a 7-year-old that his mother had tried to turn him against his own father just for money? How to tell him that Melissa, his ex-wife, had filled the boy's head with lies, saying that his father didn't love him and only cared about business? "Ethan, remember what we talked about. We're playing a game to find out who really likes children." "But Auntie Sarah already likes me. She brought bread and will bring chocolate." Richard smiled, seeing his son's innocence. "Exactly. But we need to be sure, son, truly good people exist, and when we find one, you'll know." During the afternoon, they kept watching the movement in the plaza. Richard mentally took notes about everyone who approached them. They had encountered a retired teacher who lectured them about working, a young college student who only offered prayers, and an old man who grumbled about bums invading the city. Sarah was different. There was no judgment in her eyes, only genuine compassion. The next day she arrived earlier, even before her shift started. "Hi, Ethan. I brought the chocolate I promised," she said, taking a thermos cup from her backpack. The boy drank the hot chocolate with his eyes closed in pleasure. "So delicious, Auntie Sarah. My mom never made chocolate like this." Richard felt a pang in his chest. Melissa really had never cared about simple details like making hot chocolate for her son. "Where is your mother, Ethan?" asked Sarah, sitting on a nearby bench. "She left," replied the boy, not entirely lying. Melissa had indeed left for London after Richard discovered her true intentions. "And why did you come here?" Richard replied quickly, "I lost my job at the factory, Mom Sarah. Things got tight and we ended up on the streets." She nodded with understanding. "I know how that is. I've been through hard times too. But look, Rob, you seem like a dedicated father. That counts for a lot." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Over the following days, Sarah established a routine. Every morning before work, she would stop by the plaza with coffee and some snacks. She would chat with Ethan about cartoons, games, and always asked if he had slept well. "Auntie Sarah, do you have children?" Ethan asked on a sunny Thursday. "No, dear. I never married. But I always wanted to have a child to care for," she replied, running her fingers through the boy's hair. Richard observed the tenderness in the gesture. 3 months of marriage with Melissa had been enough to realize she saw Ethan more as a burden than a son. The difference was striking. "Rob, can I ask you a question?" said Sarah, lowering her voice. "Of course, Mom." "You studied, didn't you? You speak too well for someone who always worked in a factory." Richard's heart raced. Was he being found out? "I studied through high school. I always liked to read." "That's good. Education is important. And Ethan? Isn't he going to school?" "We're still trying to sort out the documentation. It's complicated." Sarah nodded understandingly, but Richard noticed she wasn't completely convinced. That afternoon, after she went to work, Ethan started asking more direct questions. "Dad, why can't we tell the truth to Auntie Sarah? She's nice." "Because, son, sometimes people change when they know we have money. They pretend to like us. But Auntie Sarah already likes us and doesn't know anything." The child's logic hit Richard hard. The boy was right. "Ethan, you need to promise me one thing. You can't tell anyone who we really are, okay? It's important." "Okay, Dad, but when are we going to stop lying?" Richard didn't know how to answer. The following week, the manager of the office building approached them. "Hey there, you can't stay here in front of the building. You're bothering the clients." "Sorry, sir, we don't make a mess," replied Richard. "I don't care. If you don't leave, I'll call the proper authorities to take this child away." Ethan hid behind his father, frightened. That's when Sarah appeared, returning from lunch. "What's the problem, Mr. Johnson?" "These two are disrupting the flow. I'm going to call Child Protective Services." "You will not call anyone," said Sarah, stepping in front of Richard and Ethan. "They aren't harming anyone, just sitting there." "Sarah, you don't have the authority to—" "Yes, I do. I've known them for weeks. Rob takes very good care of his son. It's not fair to threaten a child." The manager huffed and walked away, but Richard knew it wasn't over. "Thank you, Ma'am Sarah. You didn't have to get involved." "Of course I did. Nobody messes with Ethan in front of me." The boy hugged the woman's leg, emotional. "Thank you, Auntie Sarah." That night, as they slept in the shelter, Ethan made a confession that shook Richard. "Dad, I wish Auntie Sarah was my real mom." Richard swallowed hard. Maybe he had found what he was looking for. The next day, Friday, Sarah arrived looking agitated. "Rob, I need to talk to you." She told him that Mr. Johnson had indeed called Child Protective Services, but that she had intervened, explained the situation, and informally vouched for them. "Ma'am Sarah, you shouldn't have done that. You could get in trouble because of us." "It's no problem, but look, I have a proposal. How about you two come spend the weekend at my house? I have a couch where you can sleep, and that way Ethan stays away from all that commotion at the Central Plaza." Richard hesitated. Going to her house meant more closeness, more chances of being discovered, but it also meant observing Sarah in her natural environment. "We don't want to be a bother." "No bother at all. My mother loves children. She'll be thrilled to meet Ethan." Gabriel tugged at his father's sleeve, his eyes pleading. "Please, Dad." "All right, but only if we won't be any trouble." Sarah's house was in a simple but well-kept neighborhood. It was small, with 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a kitchen that smelled of home-cooked food. "Mum, these are Rob and Ethan I told you about." Dorothy, 68 years old, greeted them both with a warm smile. "Welcome. Sarah hasn't stopped talking about you." "Thank you very much, Ma'am Dorothy." "Ethan, do you like chocolate cake? I just made one." The boy's eyes lit up. "Yes, I do." During dinner, Richard carefully observed the family dynamic. Mother and daughter treated each other with genuine affection. Sarah worked 3 different jobs to pay for her mother's diabetes treatment, but she never complained. "Sarah told me you're going through some hard times," said Mom Dorothy, serving more rice to Gabriel. "Life can be tough sometimes, but someone always shows up to help." "You're right, Mom," replied Richard, genuinely touched by the hospitality. That night, while Ethan slept on the living room couch, Richard insisted on helping Sarah with the dishes. "Ma'am Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you doing all this for us? You don't really know us." Sarah stopped washing the dishes and looked at him. "You know, Rob, when I was little, my father lost his job. We were in a really tough spot. A neighbor of ours, Mrs. Miller, took care of us for months. She gave us food, helped with clothes. She even got medicine for my father." She sighed. I never forgot that woman's kindness. I always promised that if I ever had the means, I would help other people too. And why especially us? Because of Ethan. I see how you take care of him, how he respects you. Even in a difficult situation, you support each other. That's rare, Rob. Richard felt a lump in his throat. If she only knew the truth. Mom, Sarah, what if I wasn't who you think I am? She looked at him, curious. What do you mean? Nothing, never mind. Just a thought that crossed my mind. On Saturday morning, Ethan woke up excited. Auntie Sarah, Grandma Dorothy, are you going to play with me today? Mom Dorothy taught the boy how to make cookies, while Sarah helped him put together a puzzle on the living room table. Richard watched everything from a distance, pretending to read a magazine. His son was radiant, happier than he had been in months. Dad, why can't we live here forever? Whispered Ethan when the two women went to the backyard. Because it's not our home, son. But they like us, and I like them. In the afternoon, Sarah had an idea. How about we take Ethan to the park? I haven't been there in ages. At the park, Ethan ran among the play equipment like a normal child. Sarah pushed him on the swing, while Richard watched them from the bench. He's a special child, said Sarah, sitting down next to Richard. Polite, affectionate. You've done a good job raising him. Thank you. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing it right. You are. Any mother would be lucky to have a son like Ethan. Richard swallowed hard. Those words were exactly what he needed to hear. And any child would be lucky to have a mother like you. Sarah blushed slightly. Oh, Rob, you're too kind. That night during dinner, Ma'am Dorothy made a comment that put Richard on alert. Sarah, doesn't Ethan talk just like you did when you were little? Those big words, that polite way. It's true, Mom. I even thought about that. Ethan looked at his father, worried. It's just that I used to watch a lot of educational cartoons on TV, the boy said quickly. How clever, laughed Mrs. Dorothy. But Richard noticed that Sarah continued watching Ethan attentively. On Sunday, before they returned to the plaza, Sarah made an unexpected proposal. Rob, I have an idea. How about you working as a doorman here in the neighborhood? I know the building manager of an office building who needs someone. It doesn't pay much, but it's enough to rent a small room. Richard was speechless. The offer was genuine, selfless. Mom, Sarah, I don't know what to say. Think about it carefully. Ethan needs to go to school to have a more stable life. Auntie Sarah, would you come visit us? Asked Ethan. Of course I would. Every day if you wanted me to. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. Back at the plaza on Monday, Richard couldn't stop thinking about Sarah's proposal. For the first time in weeks, he considered ending the charade. Had he found what he was looking for? Dad, are we going to accept the job Auntie Sarah talked about? Asked Ethan. I don't know, son. It's complicated. Why is it complicated? You always said that working is good. The child's logic struck Richard once again. How could he explain that he didn't need to work, because he already had more money than he could spend in several lifetimes? Sarah arrived at the usual time, but she seemed worried. Good morning, boys. Did you sleep well? Yes, Auntie Sarah. I dreamed about Grandma Dorothy's cake, replied Ethan. She smiled, but there was something different in her eyes. Rob, can I talk to you? They stepped a few paces away while Ethan played with a toy car Sarah had given him as a gift. Did something happen, Ma'am Sarah? Rob, do you trust me? Of course I do. Then you need to tell me the truth. Who are you, really? Richard's heart raced. What do you mean, Ma'am Sarah? Rob, I've been working as a cleaning lady for 15 years. I've seen all kinds of people, every possible situation, and you two aren't what you seem. Richard tried to stay calm. I don't understand. Ethan uses words that poor children don't know. You're too educated for someone who always worked in a factory. And those shoes you're wearing, they might be dirty, but they're expensive brand names, I noticed on the first day. Richard felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. Ma'am Sarah, Look, I don't know what your situation is. If you're running from something, if you have problems with the law. But I want you to know that it doesn't change a thing. I like you both just the same." "It's nothing like that," said Richard, seeing there was no way to lie anymore. "It's more complicated." "Then tell me. I promise I won't judge." Richard looked at Ethan, who was playing happily a few meters away. "If I tell you the truth, do you promise you won't change how you treat Ethan?" "I promise. My name isn't Rob, it's Richard Bennett, and I have a lot of money, Ma'am Sarah. A whole lot." Sarah stared at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I own several companies. A billionaire, to be exact." She took a step back. "Are you joking with me?" Richard pulled his expensive cell phone, which he always kept hidden, from the inside pocket of his worn-out jacket. He showed her photos of himself in newspapers at social events. "Why are you pretending to be poor?" she asked, visibly shocked. "It's a long story. My ex-wife, she only married me for the money. When I found out, I asked for a divorce. But she tried to turn Ethan against me, saying I didn't love him, that I only cared about work." Sarah listened in silence. "I decided to run a test. I wanted to find someone who would truly love my son, not out of self-interest. Someone who would care for him even while thinking we were poor. And you used me as a guinea pig," she said, her voice choked up. "It wasn't like that, Ma'am Sarah." "What you did, ma'am, the care, the affection, it was all real. And what we feel for you is also real." Sarah took a few more steps back. "You lied to me this whole time. I worried, lost sleep, spent money I didn't have. I know, and I'm sorry for that. But I needed to be sure." "Sure of what? That I'm not a gold digger? That you truly loved Ethan, and you do, I saw it." Tears began to stream down Sarah's face. "How could you do this to me? I opened my home, introduced you to my mother." Ethan noticed something was wrong and came running. "Auntie Sarah, why are you crying?" She quickly wiped away the tears. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Auntie Sarah is just a little sad." "Did Daddy make you sad?" asked the boy, glaring at Richard. "No, Ethan. It wasn't your father's fault." But Richard saw in her expression that yes, it had been his fault. "Ma'am Sarah, let me explain better." "I don't want to hear anything else," she said, grabbing her backpack. "You got what you wanted. Now leave me alone." "Auntie Sarah, are you leaving?" asked Ethan, desperate. "I need to go to work, sweetheart." "But will you be back tomorrow?" Sarah hesitated, looking at the boy with a broken heart. "I don't know, Ethan." After she walked away, Ethan burst into tears. "Why was Auntie Sarah sad? What did you do, Dad?" Richard knelt down to his son's level. "Ethan, I told her the truth, that we're not poor." "And why did that make her sad?" "Because she didn't like finding out that we lied. But now we can be her real friends." The boy's innocence contrasted with the complexity of the situation. "It's not that simple, son. For the next 2 days, Sarah didn't show up at the plaza. Ethan asked about her constantly, and Richard didn't know what to say. Dad, can we go to Auntie Sarah's house? I want to know if she's okay." "We can't, Ethan. She asked us to leave her alone." "But I miss Grandma Dorothy too." Richard missed her too. That simple weekend, that feeling of a real family. On Wednesday, Sarah finally appeared, but she was different, formal, distant. "Good morning," she said without her usual cheer. "Auntie Sarah." Ethan ran to hug her, but she gently sidestepped. "Hi, Ethan. How are you?" "Sad. You disappeared." "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I've been busy." She took a bag of bread from her backpack and handed it to Ethan, but avoided looking at Richard. "Ma'am Sarah, can we talk?" he asked. "There's nothing to talk about." "Please, just 5 minutes." She sighed and motioned for Ethan to keep eating. "Speak." "I know I did everything wrong. I shouldn't have lied, but you need to understand my reasons. Your reasons don't justify playing with people's feelings." "I wasn't playing. My suffering was real. Seeing my son being manipulated, not knowing who to trust. And you thought testing me like I was a lab animal was the solution?" Richard lowered his head. "When you put it that way, it really sounds horrible." "Sounds? It is horrible." "Ma'am Sarah, What can I do to make it up to you? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Ethan approached, sensing the tension. Auntie Sarah, don't you like us anymore? She knelt down to the boy's level and Richard saw tears forming in her eyes. Ethan, I like you very much. I always will. Then why don't you come talk to us anymore? Because sometimes adults do complicated things, and then it gets hard to be friends. But you can forgive. My teacher said forgiving is what good people do. Sarah looked at Richard over the child's head. Sometimes forgiving isn't enough, sweetheart. She stood up and walked away, leaving Ethan in tears. That night at the shelter, Richard made a decision. I couldn't keep making my son suffer because of my own mistakes. Ethan, what if we went back home? Our real home? Yes. But what about Auntie Sarah? Auntie Sarah will be fine. She has her own life. Dad, I want to stay close to her. Son, we can't always have what we want. But you said you'd find a mother for me. You found Auntie Sarah and now you're giving up. Richard didn't know how to respond. The next day, Thursday, they were packing the few things they had when an elegant woman approached the central plaza. Richard froze when he recognized Melissa, his ex-wife. Ethan, she shouted, running toward them. The boy looked confused at the woman in high heels and expensive clothes. Mom? Yes, my love. Mommy's back, she said, trying to hug him. Ethan hid behind Richard. Melissa, what are you doing here? I came to get my son. I heard about your pathetic little game of being a homeless man. How did you find out? I have my contacts. Did you really think you could fool me? Richard noticed they were being watched by several people in the plaza. The situation was getting out of control. Ethan isn't going with you. Let's see what the justice system has to say about that. A father who subjects his own son to living on the streets on a whim. Dad, who is this woman? Whispered Ethan. She's your mother, son, the mother who abandoned you. Melissa forced a fake smile. Ethan, Mommy didn't abandon you. I just had to go away for a little while. But now I'm back to take you home. I don't want to go, said the boy, clinging to Richard's pants. Nonsense, you'll love our new house. It has a pool, video games, everything a child could want. I want to stay with my dad and with Auntie Sarah. Melissa looked around, searching. Who is Auntie Sarah? It was then that Sarah appeared, coming to work. She stopped when she saw the scene, an elegant man arguing with an equally elegant woman, and Ethan in the middle, clearly uncomfortable. Ethan? She called out, worried. Auntie Sarah! The boy ran to her. Melissa looked her up and down, noticing the cleaning lady uniform. Oh, so this is the famous Sarah. Who are you, Mom? Asked Sarah, protective. I'm Melissa Bennett, Ethan's mother. Sarah looked at Richard, confused. I thought his mother had left. She did leave, said Richard, and now she decided to come back. Why are you talking to me like I'm a stranger? Complained Melissa. I'm his mother. Ethan clung tighter to Sarah's leg. Auntie Sarah, I don't want to go with her. Melissa turned red with anger. Ethan, stop this tantrum. You're coming with me right now. I'm not going. Calm down, Ethan, said Sarah, stroking the boy's hair. No one is going to force you to do anything. Who are you to talk about what's best for my son? Attacked Melissa. I'm someone who has been taking care of him for weeks. Where were you, ma'am, when he needed you? I was taking care of important matters. More important than your own son? Richard watched the argument, seeing Sarah defend Ethan tooth and nail, even though she was still hurt by him. Ma'am, Sarah, you don't need to get involved in this, he said. Yes, I do, she replied, looking him in the eyes for the first time since the revelation. Ethan is important to me. Melissa let out a mocking laugh. How ridiculous. A cleaning lady trying to give a morality lesson. A cleaning lady who truly loves this child, Sarah shot back. Love? You barely know him. I do know him. I know he likes hot chocolate in the morning, that he's afraid of the dark, that he loves to hear stories before bed. I know he's polite, affectionate, and that he needs affection, not expensive things. Ethan looked at Sarah with adoration. See, Dad? Auntie Sarah really knows me. Melissa was speechless for a few seconds. That doesn't change anything. I'm his mother. Being a mother isn't just about giving birth, said Sarah. It's about being present, It's about caring. It's about loving without expecting anything in return. Richard felt a wave of emotion. Sarah was fighting for his son, even after everything that had happened. "Look here, you," began Melissa, but was interrupted by Ethan. "I want to stay with Auntie Sarah. She's a better mum than you." The silence that followed was tense. Melissa was visibly hurt and furious. "Ethan, you don't know what you're saying." "Yes, I do. You never made chocolate for me. You never taught me how to tie my shoes. You never sang me a lullaby. I can learn those things." "I don't want you to learn. I want Auntie Sarah." Melissa looked at Richard angrily. "See what you did? You turned our son against me." "I didn't turn him against anyone. I just let him know what true love is." "And you think she pointed at Sarah, really loves him? A complete stranger?" "More than you, for sure." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Sarah knelt down to be at Ethan's eye level. "Ethan, look at Auntie. Your mother is right about one thing. She is your real mother. And even though I care about you very much, I can't take her place." "But I don't want to go with her," the boy whined. "I know, sweetheart, but sometimes life is complicated." "Auntie Sarah, could you be my mom? My dad has a lot of money. He can pay you." Sarah felt as if she'd been punched in the stomach. "Ethan, that's not how it works." Richard stepped closer. "Mom Sarah, may I suggest something?" She looked at him, suspicious. "How about we all talk calmly, away from here in a private place?" "Why would I talk to a cleaning lady about my son's future?" said Melissa scornfully. "Because this cleaning lady knows your son better than you do," replied Richard curtly. Melissa was visibly shocked by her ex-husband's sharpness. "Richard, what is this all about?" "It's about the fact that you never truly cared about Ethan. You only came back now because you found out I'm testing people to take care of him." "Testing people? As if our son were an object?" "Looking for someone who would truly love him," he corrected. "And I found her." All eyes turned to Sarah, who blushed. I need to get to work," she said, clearly uncomfortable. "Auntie Sarah, don't go," begged Ethan. "Sweetie, the adults need to work these things out among themselves." "But I want you to stay." Sarah looked at Richard, then at Melissa, then at the desperate boy. "Okay, I'll stay a little longer." Richard suggested they go to a nearby cafe. During the walk, Ethan didn't let go of Sarah's hand for a second. "This is ridiculous," murmured Melissa. At the cafe, they sat at a table in the back. Ethan insisted on sitting on Sarah's lap. "Well, let's clear things up," said Richard. "Melissa, why did you decide to come back?" "Because I'm his mother. I have rights." "Rights you gave up when you left." "I didn't give up anything. I just needed some time." "Some time?" Sarah couldn't hold back. "What mother takes time away from her own child?" "You don't understand. You don't have children." "I don't need to have children to know they need their mother always, not just when it's convenient." Melissa turned to Richard. "Are you really going to let a stranger talk to me like that?" "She's not a stranger. She's the person who took care of our son while you were having fun in London." "How do you know I was in London?" "I have my contacts too." Ethan lifted his little head from Sarah's chest. "Dad, why are you fighting?" "We're not fighting, son, we're talking. But you're talking loudly." Sarah stroked the boy's hair. "Ethan, how about you go play at that table over there? There are some coloring books. Only if you come with me. I'll keep an eye on you here, I promise." Reluctantly, Ethan went to the children's table. "Now we can speak like adults," said Richard. "Great," replied Melissa. "I want full custody of Ethan." "Why? You barely know him." "I do know him. I've been his mother for 7 years." "Being a biological mother is different from being a real mother," interrupted Sarah. "Look, you've crossed the line," said Melissa, pointing her finger at Sarah. "This has nothing to do with our conversation." "Yes, it does," said Richard, "because I'm considering asking her to be Ethan's adoptive mother." The silence that followed was deafening. You what?" stammered Melissa. Sarah was also shocked. Richard, you can't say that without consulting me first. I know it's a difficult decision, but think about it. You love Ethan, he loves you. It would be perfect. It wouldn't be perfect at all, exploded Melissa. I'll never allow this. You have no choice. Ethan made it very clear who he prefers. He's a child, he doesn't know what he wants. Yes, he does, said Sarah, surprising everyone. Children sense who truly loves them. So you accept? Asked Richard hopefully. Sarah hesitated. I don't know, it's very complicated. You lied to me, you used me. I know, and I apologize for that. But think about Ethan. He needs you. Ethan came running back to the table. Can I go back to Auntie Sarah's lap now? Of course, dear, she said, opening her arms. Ethan, come to Mommy, said Melissa, reaching out her arms too. The boy looked both ways and chose Sarah. I'd rather stay here. Melissa was visibly hurt. Ethan, Mommy is sad. Sorry, Mom, but Auntie Sarah gives me more affection. I can give affection too. Can you? Can you make hot chocolate? I can ask the maid to make it. It's not the same. Auntie Sarah makes it with her own hands and it tastes better. Richard watched the scene carefully. Ethan was naturally choosing Sarah in every way. Melissa, do you see? Ethan knows who truly loves him. That's not fair. She had weeks to win him over, and I just got here. You had 7 years, said Sarah gently, and I only needed a few days to realize what a special boy he is. Auntie Sarah, are you going to be my mum? Asked Ethan, his eyes full of hope. Sarah looked at Richard, then at Melissa, then at the boy in her lap. Ethan, if I were your mum, we'd live in my little house. You'd share a room with Grandma Dorothy. There wouldn't be a video game or a pool or those expensive things. I don't want those things. I want you and Grandma Dorothy and my dad. What about me? Asked Melissa, her voice choked. Ethan thought for a moment. You can visit us. The answer was like a knife to Melissa's heart. Ethan, Mommy loves you very much. I know, Mom, but love is different from liking a lot. Auntie Sarah loves me the way you said. Melissa began to cry. I can learn to love better. I can try to be like Sarah. You don't need to be like Sarah, said Ethan with surprising wisdom for his age. You need to be yourself, but with more affection. And if I can, if I learn. Ethan looked at Sarah. Auntie Sarah, if my mum learns to make hot chocolate and tell stories, can we be her friend? Sarah smiled through her tears. Of course we can, dear. Richard realized this was a golden opportunity. Melissa, how about an agreement? What kind of agreement? You have 6 months to show Ethan you've changed, that you really care about him, not just the money. And if I succeed, we share custody. He spends time with you, time with me, and with Sarah. And if I don't succeed, Sarah gets full custody. Sarah protested. Hey, you're deciding my life without asking me. Sorry, said Richard. Do you accept the proposal? She looked at Ethan, who gazed at her with adoration. I accept, but with a few conditions. What are they? First, no lies, never again. Second, if I'm going to be his mother, I want to be a real mother, be part of the decisions, the upbringing, everything. Third, I don't want to be supported. I'll keep working. Mum Sarah, said Richard, you don't need to work as a cleaning lady. I can give you a better job. I don't want favors. If you're going to give me a job, let it be on merit. All right, I accept all the conditions. Melissa sighed. I accept too, but I want the same, to be part of important decisions. Ethan clapped, excited. So I'm going to have 2 mothers? Yes, dear. And you're going to be the most loved boy in the world, said Sarah, kissing his forehead. In the months that followed, the situation developed in an interesting way. Melissa really tried to change. She learned to make hot chocolate, started reading stories to Ethan, and even signed up for a parent-child relationship course. Sarah divided her time between taking care of Ethan and working. Richard got her a job as a cleaning coordinator in one of his office buildings with a much better salary, but without interfering on merit. Mom Dorothy moved to a bigger little house that Richard bought in the same neighborhood, and officially became Ethan's grandmother of the heart. Custody ended up being shared equally among the three adults. Ethan spent weekdays with Sarah and Mom Dorothy, weekends with Richard, and one afternoon a week with Melissa. Surprisingly, Melissa and Sarah developed an unexpected friendship. The rich ex-wife learned a lot about motherhood from the humble cleaning lady. "You taught me what I never learned," said Melissa one afternoon, as the two prepared Ethan's snack. "That being a mother is about being present, not about giving presents." "And you taught me that it's not a crime for a child to have nice things," replied Sarah. "The important thing is that they don't forget their values." Ethan grew up surrounded by true love, learning that family isn't about blood or money, but about care, presence, and genuine affection. 1 year after that conversation at the cafe on a Sunday afternoon, everyone was gathered in Ma'am Dorothy's backyard. Ethan was playing with the neighborhood children while the adults chatted on the porch. "You know something," said Richard, watching his son play. "I got what I wanted. I found someone who truly loves Ethan." "You got more than that," said Sarah. "You got a family." "And I learned how to be a mother," added Melissa. "Something I thought I already knew." Ma'am Dorothy, knitting in her rocking chair, smiled. "That's what family is. It doesn't need to be perfect, it needs to be real." At that moment, Ethan came running. "Dad, Mother Sarah, Mother Melissa, Grandma Dorothy, look what I learned." He did a somersault on the lawn, and everyone applauded. "Who taught you that?" asked Sarah. "Jake, my friend from school. He said he'll teach me to play soccer too." "And you want to learn?" asked Richard. "Yes, can I?" "Of course you can," said Melissa. "Mommy will watch all the games." "And I'll make the team snacks," added Sarah. "And I'll make little colored flags," said Ma'am Dorothy. "And I'll be the private coach," laughed Richard. Ethan gave a huge smile. "I'm the luckiest boy in the world." That night, after Ethan fell asleep, the four adults stayed talking in the living room. "Richard," said Sarah, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "You don't regret taking that crazy test?" He thought for a moment. "I regret lying, I regret hurting you, but I don't regret the result. I found a real mother for my son. And I learned that you're not born a mother. You learn how to be one," said Melissa. "And I learned that family can be built in many ways," Sarah concluded. Ma'am Dorothy, who was dozing in her armchair, opened her eyes. "And I learned it's never too late to gain a grandson," she said, making everyone laugh. 2 years had passed. Ethan was 9 years old, perfectly adapted to his unconventional family. Sarah had been promoted twice at Richard's company, always on her own merit. Melissa had graduated with a degree in child psychology and was volunteering at a daycare center. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan made an announcement during lunch. "Everyone, I have something important to say." They all stopped eating and looked at him, curious. "At school, the teacher asked us to draw our family." "And so?" asked Sarah. "I drew everyone, Dad, Mum Sarah, Mum Melissa, and Grandma Dorothy. But the paper wasn't big enough." "Why wasn't it big enough?" laughed Richard. "Because our family is too big, so I asked the teacher for another paper." "And what did she say?" asked Melissa. "She said she'd never seen a child with so many people who truly love him." The four adults looked at each other, moved. "And what did you answer?" asked Mum Dorothy. "I said it's because my dad is very smart. He went looking for the right people to take care of me." Richard felt his eyes well up. "And do you think he found the right people?" Ethan gave that smile that could melt any heart. "Yes, he did. He found the best people in the whole world." At that moment, Richard knew his journey as a homeless man had been worth every second of suffering. He had found more than a mother for Ethan. He had found a true family. End of story. And you, dear listener, what did you think of this moving story of true love and family? Tell us in the comments. Do you believe Richard did the right thing? And Sarah, do you think she made the right decision by agreeing to be Ethan's mother? Leave your honest opinion below. Don't forget to give it a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that will touch your heart.